Hi everyone, today we are going to be going through GCSE Edexcel High Paper 2 Predicted Paper for 2024. Please still revise every topic since there's no guarantee what will come up in the day, and I have timestamps in the description so that you can go over a certain topic if you want to, and I've also linked some more practice if you want to in the description below. Don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on the notification bell because we will be doing predicted papers for other boards and subjects. Let's get started. Question 1. In January 2007, the population of Canada was 32 million. 7 million of these Canadian people spoke French as their first language. Express 7 million as a percentage of 32 million. All we have to do is do 7 million, and this is over 32 million. And because they want it in a percentage, shown over here, we just have to times this by 100. Now the first thing we can do to make this easier for us is just move all these zeros because there is 6 zeros in both ways. So it'll just be 7 over 32 times this by 100, put it into your calculator and you'll get 21.9%. Between January 2007 and January 2009, the population of Canada increased by 4%, increased 32 million by 4%. We are going to do 32 and times this by 1.04, where this 0.4 represents the 4%. Now if you do this, we get 33.28. Now remember, we are doing this as if the units are in million, so it's 33.28 million. However, it wants to correct to the nearest million, so because of that, if we just round this down, it's just going to be 33 million. Question 2. The grouped frequency table gives information about the ages of 200 elephants. Complete the cumulative frequency table. We start with 55, and then going on to 0 to 20, we need to add this 60 over here because it's 0 to 20, we add both of them together. So 55 plus 60, that is 115. Now this is 0 to 30, that means we add all three of these, so then it will be 155, and if we continue doing this, you'll get 177, 190, and 200. On the grid, draw the cumulative frequency graph from your table. For a cumulative frequency graph, we need to be using the upper bound of each class for our x-axes. So in the first one, it will be 10 to 55, this being the y-axis and this being the x-axis. Once you have plotted all the points, all you have to do is just connect each one. You do this freehand, not by a straight ruler, as you need to have this curve line. You start from 0 and you end wherever your last point is. You do not continue because that would be incorrect. Now make sure you don't use a ruler to connect each point because that also is incorrect. It has to be freehand and you need to have this curved shape. C. Use the graph to find an estimate for the number of elephants with ages more than 26 years. All we have to do is go on to where it says 26, which is over here, and then we start drawing up. We stop once we hit our curve of best fit, which is the blue line we just drew, and we just go the other way onto the y-axis and we read what the value is. Here it's 140. We want to know how much more there is. So if it's more, it's this way, so therefore it's this way. So we do 200 minus 140. Which will equal 60 elephants. Question 3. The diagram shows a vertical flagpole in Chennai, India. The point A is at top of the flagpole and point B is in the foot of the flagpole. Platform is at the point D on the flagpole and BC are points in the horizontal ground. AD is 16.5 meters and the angle of elevation of A is 6, C is 69 and the angle of elevation of D is 59. Calculate the height AB of the flagpole and give your answer correct to 3 significant figures. So if we just mark where we want from A to B, so we want this whole thing, which we will label X. First thing we can do is find out the angle BDC. This is because all the angles in a triangle all equals 180 degree. We know that this is 90 degree and this is 59 degree. So if we do 180 minus 90 minus 59, we know that our BDC angle is 31, which we'll label on the graph here. The next thing we can do is find out this angle over here, which is CDA. We can do this because all the angles in a straight line equals 180, where we have the straight line over here. So we just do 180 minus 31, so this angle is 149. Going back to this rule over here, where all the angles in a triangle equals 180, we can find out what DAC is by doing 180 minus 10 minus 149, where it will equal 21. Now take a screenshot of this if you want to keep how we did all of this, because the next thing we are going to do is we are going to find this over here, DC. To find DC, we are going to use the sine rule. We're trying to find what CD is, and CD, whatever the angle is opposite it, we can see it's 21, so it will be over sine 21. This is going to be equal to another angle, sine of an angle, whatever the opposite length is. Now we have this length over here, which is AD, so we'll do 16.5, and this is going to be over whatever the next angle is that is just opposite it, so it'll be sine 10. Now, all we have to do to find CD is move this to the other direction, so it'll be 16.5 over sine 10, and we times this by sine 21. Put this into a calculator and we get 34.052, which we can put over here. Now, because this is a right angle triangle, what we can do, we can use Pythagoras. First thing we're going to do is just label all of it, so we know this is the hypotenuse. We are trying to find this length over here, so we need to use one of our angles. Well, you're going to use this angle over here. So now this is the opposite of the angle and this is adjacent. We have the hypotenuse and we want to find the opposite, so we are going to be using sin. Do sin 59 since we have our angle. Do this over the opposite, which is what we're trying to find, and we do this over 34.52. Now, so that we can find O by itself, we do sin 59 and we times that by 34.052, where if you do this into a calculator, we know that this will be 29.188. And again, just remember, we are trying to find AB. We have only found what BD is, so we need to add the 16.5 over here. So if we add the 16.5, we'll get the answer 45.7, and this is to 3 significant figures. Question 4. The table shows land areas in kilometers squared of 4 countries. Which country has the largest land area? Now, the first thing we're going to do is look at the small number that is over here. This is because wherever the point is, because they're all 6, we are going to move this way, and it moves it by 6 times, or here it moves it by 5 times. So clearly, the ones with 6 are going to be larger. So now we have taken out these 2. Now all we have to see is which of the first number is larger, and it's the 2.83, so our answer is Algeria. B. Calculate the total land area in kilometers squared of all 4 countries and give your answer in standard form. Now, total area means that we just have to add every single one up. So we do 1.13 times 10 to the power 6. We add that by 2.38 times 10 to the power of 6. Add that by 9.24 times 10 to the power of 5. And add that by 5.83 times 10 to the power of 5. If you add this all up in your calculator, you get 5017,000. Now, they do want it in standard form, so what we do is that we need to make the first number between 1 and 10. So if we make it between 1 and 10, our decimal point is going to need to be here so that it's a 5 in the beginning. Now, all you do is count how many times you need to pass over a number so that we can go into this decimal point that we just put here, and that was 6 times. So what we do is we do 5 point, and you keep going until it's the last full integer, not counting all the zeros, so it'll be 5.017, and then you do times 10, and however number that you counted, which is 6, you do to the power of 6. Population density is calculated by the formula population density equal population divided by land area. In 1 year, the population of Ethiopia was 7.91 times 10 to the power of 7. Calculate the population density of Ethiopia for that year. First, we put the population on top, which is 791 times 10 to the power of 7. Then we see what our land area was, and it was 1.13 times 10 to the power of 6. first divide these two numbers over here together. If you do that, we would get 7. And then we're going to use this. This is just using the index law, which is that if anything divide by each other, it's the same as just the powers doing minusing from each other. So a minus b. So if we do 7 minus 6, we turn out with 1. So it'll be times 10 to the power of 1, which is the same as just 70. Where if, let's say, we had our dot here, we just move it by 1, add a 0 in that place, therefore is 70. Question 5. The diagram shows part of a regular polygon. The interior angle and the exterior angle are vertex that are marked. The size of the interior angle is 7 times the size of the exterior angle. Work out the number of sides of this polygon. So over here, we can mark this as 7x and this as just x, where it shows that this interior angle is 7 times more than this exterior angle. Now, what we know that all an angle in a straight line, this equals 180. So we know that 7x plus x is 180. That is the same as 8x equals 180. And if we put this to the other side, it'll be x equals 180 over 8. So x equals 22.5. Now we can mark this on, so we can do this is 22.5, and this over here is 22.5 times by 7, 157.5. Now what they are asking us, they are asking for the number of sides on the polygon. So all we have to do, we just have to do 360 and we divide that by 22.5. So our answer is 16. Question 6. A, B, and C are 3 sets, where A intersection B is null and C is all of A. Complete the Venn diagram to show the sets B and C. First, we will start with set B. We know that anything A intersects B is 0, so there is no common numbers between A and B. So we can just put it over here. Where if there was something common, it would just intersect like this, where this over here is whatever is in common. But because there is no, there are 2 separate ones, and we label. Now we need to do C. And because it says this over here just means that all of C is the same as A. It's just a subset of A. So we'll just put it in here. And this is C. On the Venn diagram, shade the region that represents A intersection not C. This small dot over here means not. So we need everything that intersects not C. Basically means all of this region over here. Here are 6 graphs, A, B, C, D, E, and F. Complete the table below with the letter of the graph that could represent each given equation. Write your answers on the dotted line. First, what we are going to do is we're going to go through each one and we're going to see what the characteristics is. So if you see this U bell shape over here, we know that these are an x squared. However, if you see it's down where the point is on the top, it is a minus. And if the down is on the bottom, it is a positive. Now with these ones, we know that this where it's the curve is x3. You can tell because it has these 2 turning points which are over here. And these B and E, this is 1 over x. This is how it looks like because of these going in 2 different oppositions. So these are just things that you need to know the features of a graph and how its general shape will look like. This will help us in answering this. So y equals minus 2 over x. This is B, because if it's in these 2 quadrants, it is a minus, and if it's over these, it is a positive. 5 minus x squared, we already know that this is the one with minus, so it is A. Minus 2x3, this is F. Because if it goes this way, kind of like how when you see a gradient of a line go this way, it is a negative. This is a positive. Question 8. A and B are 2 similar vases. The vases such that the surface area of vase B is 25 over 64 of surface area of vase A, and that volume of vase A minus volume of vase B equals 541.8 centimeters cubed. Calculate the volume of vase B. The first thing you have to do with this type of questions, which is similar shape, is you find the scale factor, the area factor, and the volume factor to make it easier for us. Now, usually they give 1, and once you have 1, you can calculate the other 2. Over here, we have the area factor. This is because it's surface area. So we know that it's 25 over 64. And area factor is centimeters squared. So that we can find scale factor, which is just in centimeters, all we have to do is square root 25 over 64, which equals 5 over 8. Now for volume is centimeter cubed. So all we do is we take this number and we just cube it, and we would get 125 over 512. Now if we look at here A and B, let's take it for instance that volume of A is X. Well, volume is B is going to be this, where it's 125 over 512 X. This is because it's a scale factor of it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take these new volumes and we're going to put it into this equation over here. If we do that, it's going to be X minus 125 over 512X, which is the volume of base B, and this equals 541.8. Now all we have to do is solve for X. We will do 387. 512 over X equals 541.8. This is because there's like a 1 over here. And then X is going to equal 716.8. However, the 71.68 is volume A. We want to see the volume of B. So what we do is we put it back into this, where we're going to do 125 over 512, and we times this by 716.8. And that's going to equal 175 centimeters. Question 9. A particle P moves along a straight line that passes through the fixed point O. The displacement in x meters of P from O at time t seconds, where t is equal to or greater than 0, is given by this equation over here. The direction of motion of P reverses when P is at the point A on the line. The acceleration of P at the instance where P is A at A meters seconds squared. Find the value of A. We want to find out what this is, which is we want to find out what acceleration is. Now, what we have over here, this is our displacement, which is basically the same as distance. What we need to remember this acronym here, which is dV. We have displacement, velocity, and acceleration. Now going down, what you have to do, we differentiate. So let's take this and let's differentiate it, and we're going to differentiate it so that we can get what the velocity is, because we need to get the velocity before we can get our acceleration. So we differentiate it down. If we do that, we will get 12t squared minus 27. This is because what we do is we times the power by the number in front, so that's 12, and we decrease it then by 1. We decrease the power by 1. If you do the same here, we take 1 times it by 27, it'll just be 27. Now if you do 1 minus 1, it will be 0. And with 8, if you do it, it's 0. And we know 0 times 8 is just 0, so it'll just be that plus 0, so we do not include it. Now we need to differentiate it once again so that we can get acceleration. So it'll be x equals 24t. This is because, again, we did the same thing, and because there's no x on here, it's times by 0, therefore we do not include it. A acceleration is the same as 24t. Now what we have to do is we're going to have to find out what t is so that we can substitute it into the equation and find out what our acceleration is. We do this by using our velocity, since it says over here. So all we have to do is just make t the subject, where it is 12t squared minus 27 equals 0. If we make t the subject, what we get is t squared is going to equal 27, and this is over 12. And then we take the square to the other side, and if we do this, that means we just square root it completely. If we put that into our calculator, we get t equals 3 over 2. Now since we got what t is, we put it back into this equation, so we'll go a equals 24, and you times it by 3 over 2, so a equals 36, which is the answer. Question 10. Show that the recurring decimal 0.396 equals 44 over 111. This recurring over here is the same as 0.396, and because you see these two dots are over here, it's basically just putting it again and again and again, and just this pattern recurring over and over again. First thing we are going to do is we're going to equal x to this 0.396396 and forever. Now, because there is 3 numbers that keep on recurring, we are going to times this by 1,000. 1,000 because there's 3 zeros, that's a simple way to remember it. So if we times it, we need to times the x also by it. So it will be 1,000x equals 396.396 and forever. Now we are going to minus them from each other. If we do 1,000x minus x, we get 999x. And if we minus 396.396 minus 0.396, we just get 396. And that's the reason why we times it by the amount of number that we have recurring is in that pattern, so that we can get a answer that does not have any decimals, since that's what we're trying to remove. Once you do this, we're going to make x the subject. So we do 396, we divide that by 909. Now, so that we can get it, we can see that these two are very different numbers. All we have to do now is just simplify it. How you can simplify it is just by putting it into your calculator. If you put it into your calculator and you put equal, it will automatically simplify that fraction to you. If you do that, you'll see that we get 44 over 111. Question 11, make x the subject of y where 5 minus 2x is over x plus 3. Now the first thing we can see is that there are 2 x's. We have 2 x's in both ways. The first thing we want to do is first remove the fraction, since we do not want to work with fractions. And then the second is to make it 1x. First thing we're going to do is we're going to times it and move this. So it will be y x plus 3, since it's division on one way. Therefore, if we move it across the equal sign, we do the opposite where it's timesing. And this equals 5 minus 2x. Now what we're going to do is we're going to expand this. So it will be yx plus 3y, and this equals 5 minus 2x. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move all the x's to one side and all the other numbers on the other side, so that we can start the process of making it back to 1x. We're going to do yx, move this to the other side, it will be plus 2x, and that equals 5 minus 3y. Now that we have these x's on the same side, we can see here that there is a common term between these two numbers, and that is the x. So what we do is we factorize it out of it, where it will be y plus 2, and that equals 5 minus 3y. This basically means we're timesing all of this by x. So if you move this to the other side, we're just dividing all of that by the other number. So our final answer is going to be x, 5 minus 3y, and this is all over y plus 2. Question 12. The function of f is defined as fx equals x minus 6 over 2. Find f8. Now all we do is substitute 8 wherever we see the x. So it'll be 8 minus 6 over 2, which is going to equal 1. B. Express the inverse of function f minus 1 in the form of f minus 1. Now what we are going to do here, it's the same procedure. We're going to make the fx into y so that it becomes easier for us, and will be x minus 6 over 2. What are we going to want? We're going to make x the subject now. So if you do this, will be 2y, that equals x minus 6. And then if you move the 6 to the other side, it'll be 2y plus 6. This equals x. Now the last step we're going to have to do is we're going to change the y's into x. And this x is just going to be f minus 1. So f minus 1x, if we change it, the y to x, will be 2x plus 6. The function g is defined as gx equals square root of x minus 4. Which values of x cannot be included in the domain of g? This is whatever is over here. Whatever you see is minus 4, it will be 4, because 4 minus 4 is going to equal 0, and you cannot do the square root of 0. And you can also not do the square root of any negative numbers, because it's just mathematically impossible. So it's going to be anything that is less than 4. Express the function gf in the form gfx and give your answer as simply as possible. Like how we did before, where we did the 8 and we put everything inside, now we're going to put fx, the whole equation, every time we see the x in g. Now we're going to put this equation every time we see an x over here. So if you do this, we get our x minus 6 over 2, and this is all minus 4. Now the last step is just to simplify this, and if we simplify it, we are going to get square root of x minus 14 over 2. Question 13. F is inversely proportional to the square of x. F is 0.8 when x equals 5. find the formula of f in terms of x. First thing we are going to do is create our formula. So we know that f is inversely proportional to the square of x. So because it's inversely proportional, it's always going to be k over something. Here, it's going to be over the square of x. So this is how we do it. Now here, this k is our constant, and we need to find out what the scale factor is that links f and x squared together. What we are going to do this is by just putting these two values in. So we do 0.8, this equals k, and this is over 5 squared. Now all we have to do is find out what k is, so we'll just rearrange it so that it's times 5 squared, and that equals k. So therefore, k is 20. Now we just put it back into our original equation, so it'll be f equals 20. This is over x squared. B, work out the positive value of x when f equals 320. All we're going to do is substitute it in, so it's 320. That equals 20 over x squared. Change the subject, so it will be 320 x squared equals 20. I will put back this, so it will be x squared equals 20 over 320 square rooted, so that we remove that square. 20 over 320, and our answer will be 0.25. Question 14. Solve x squared plus y squared equals 20, where y equals 10 minus 2x. Show in clear algebraic workings. We are going to solve the simultaneous equation by doing the substitution method, where we're going to substitute this y equals 10x minus 2x into every time we see where the y is. So we'll do x squared. We add this by 10 minus 2x, since this is our y. This y was squared, so we all square it, and that equals 20. Now we just need to expand it. We'll do x squared plus 10 minus 2x, 10 minus 2x equals 20, where that will equal x squared plus 100 minus 20x minus 20x plus 4x squared, and that equals 20. Now we are going to simplify it as much as possible by collecting like terms. We see this x squared and this x squared, so it'll be 5x squared. We only have 100, so plus 100. We'll put these together so that it's minus 40x, and that equals 20. Now we are going to take this 20 to the other side, and we want to put it in a form where it's ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, so that it's easy for us to solve what x is. We'll do 5x squared minus 40x, and if you do this, it will become minus 20, so 100 minus 20 is plus 80 equals 0. Now once you factorize it, you'll get 5x minus 4, x minus 4. So our only answer for x is going to equal 4. This is because if you do x minus 4 and we equal this to 0, it will be x equals 4, which is how we got it. Once we have our 4, we want to now find out what y is. So we are going to substitute this x4 to this original equation. So we do y equals 10 minus 2, 4. So y equals 10 minus 8. So therefore y equals 2. So x equals 4. And y equals 2, and that is our only answer. Sometimes with simultaneous equation where there's a quadratic form, you can get 2 answers, but right now it is only 1 because they are both the exact same. 15. On the grid, draw the graph of y equals 3x minus 4 for the values from minus 2 to 3. First thing we are going to do with these questions is draw a table so that we can find out what is our y values, since we already have our x here. Once you have your table here, all you're going to do is for each value of x, you are going to put it into here. So let's say we do for minus 2, we'll do 3. We times this by minus 2, so it's minus 6 minus 4, and that is minus 10. Remember, you times first before you minus. This because of the laws of bit mass. We do this for each thing, and we get minus 7, minus 4, minus 1, 2, and 5. Now, since we have our x and y coordinate, we just have to now plot the graph. And make sure when we plot the graph, we only take it from 2 to 3. We do not do it any more and any less. We only do the exact ones that they have given us. Once you have plotted the graph, all you have to do is with a straight line with your ruler, draw the line that connects it between, and don't make the line go out any between the 3 and the minus 2. Don't let the line go out because this will be considered incorrect and you'll lose one of the very easy marks that you're able to get because they only ask from minus 2 to 3. So just draw the straight line, do it with a ruler, and that is the end, and that is 4 easy marks. Question 16. The straight line passes through the point 4, -1 and 6, 4. The straight line M is perpendicular to L and intersects at the y-axis at point 0, 8. Find the coordinates of the point where M intersects the x-axis. First thing we are going to do is we are going to find out what the gradient of L is so that we can find out the equation of M, which will help us find out where it intersects with x. How we find out the gradient, let's say when we have a graph, what we do the change in y. We do this side, which is the chain of y, and we divide it by the change of x. So right now, we do not need to draw a graph. Instead, we can take a shortcut and we can just use these two coordinates over here. So if we see our y, we have these two. So it will be 4 minus -1, and then we'll take our x. Remember that y is the second number in the coordinates, and then we do 6 minus 4, which is going to be the same as 5 over 2, which is our gradient. Now, they told us that M is perpendicular to L. If it's perpendicular, that means the gradient is going to be the reciprocal. If it was parallel, it would have been the exact same gradient. So now to find the gradient of M, what we are going to do is we're going to do the reciprocal. So first we flip it, so it's 2 over 5, and we add our negative sign. This now is our gradient. Now we are going to need to do our line equation for M. A line is always in the form mx plus c. This is how a line equation looks like, where M is the gradient and c is our y-intercept. We have our gradient here where it's minus 2 over 5x, and they told us that it crosses the y-axis at point 0, 8, so we know that our y-intercept is 8. Now that we have our line equation, we want to find the point in where M intersects the x-axis. When it intersects the x-axis over here, we know that y is always going to equal 0. That is a feature. So what we can do is we can equate this whole line equation to 0 and find out what x is in that point. Now if you put this to the other side, it will be minus 8 equals minus 2 over 5x. Now we got to divide it, so we'll do minus 8, and this is divided by minus 2 over 5 equals x, so that our x is going to equal 20. Now we have to put it, 20 is going to be the first one because this is our x, and we already said and established that y is 0 when a line intersects the x-axis. Question 17. Prove that the difference between two consecutive square numbers is always an odd number and show clear algebraic workings. This is a proof question, so we are going to be working in n's so that we can say that where n is every single type of number. Now, the first thing we're going to do is two consecutive square numbers. Square number is just n squared. If n is any number, n squared is a square number. Now, it says two consecutive. So our next number is going to be n plus 1. So let's say if 1 was our first number, the next one is 2. If you say 5, the next one is 6, meaning it's consecutive. We are going to square this as well. They are talking about difference. Because they are talking about difference, it's basically minusing from each other. Do n plus 1 squared because that's always going to be bigger than n squared. So we minus that by n squared. Now all we have to do is expand it, and we're going to, by expanding it, we prove that it will be an odd number at the end. It will equal an odd number. If we expand this, it will be n plus 1 minus n squared. So it will be n squared minus n squared plus 2n minus 1. This n squared and n squared is going to cancel each other out. Because they cancel each other out, we are left with 2n minus 1. 2n is always going to be an even number. This is because 2 times whatever is always going to be even. However, with our minus 1, it always, let's say we get 12, we minus it by 1, it will be 11. Therefore, it is always an odd number. It's something you need to know. 2n minus 1 is always odd. So we can just put that as our last sentence, is always odd, and therefore we just proved that the difference between two consecutive square number is always an odd number. Question 18. The diagram shows a sketch of a part of a curve where y equals fx. There is one maximum point on this curve, and the coordinates of the maximum point are 4, 6. Write down the coordinates of the maximum point on the curve of the equation when we transform it. Because we see that this one is inside the brackets of x, so it's x plus 4, with x's, we always do the negative, so we take whatever the x is and we minus it by 4, since it says here plus 4. So 4 minus 4 is just 0, And y does not affect it because it's only concerning the x, because it's inside that bracket with x. Now it's the same thing here, we timesing it by 2, that means we here divide it. So we do 4 divided by 2, so it's 2, 6. The equation of a curve C is y equals x squared plus 3x plus 4. The curve is transformed to curve C under the translation 4, 6. Find the equation of S. Now, 4, 6 is the same as plus 4 in the x way and plus 6 in the y. As we said before, we already know that when it's something concerning the x, we put it inside the brackets of x. And because this is plus 4, when we put it into the equation, we are going to do the opposite, so negative 4. First thing we're going to do x minus 4. This is us putting it into bracket. Then we do plus 3. Here's another x, so we do x minus 4 again. And this is plus 4. Plus 4 because x's does not come to it. Now we are going to need to add this y, this plus 6. Y does not affect x, so this over here is going to stay exactly the same. However, this here is going to change. With y, whatever it does happen is the exact same. We do not change signs. So plus 6 is the same as plus 6, so we just plus 6 to this equation. And our answer is going to be x minus 4 squared. This is plus 3x minus 4, and this is plus 10. Question 19. Here is the sector AOB of a circle with a center O and the angle AOB equals x. The sector can form a curved surface of a cone by joining OA to OB as shown here. The height of the cone is 25 centimeters and the volume of the cone is 1,600 centimeters cubed. Work out the value of x and give your answer correct to the nearest whole number. We know that the volume of a cone equation is the same as 1 over 3 pi r squared h. First thing we are going to do is we are going to put our values that we know inside, because we know that volume is 1,600 and this is 1 over 3. We times this by pi. We do not know what r is, so we'll keep it as r squared. However, we do know height, which is 25, so we times by 25. Now, we can use this equation to find out what r is. If we do this, we just need to change the formula so that we can get r, and this will be square root of 1600 over 1/3 times pi times by 25. R is going to equal 7.8176. Now that we know the radius, we know that this is 7.8176. However, so that we can we need to find out what this length over here is, and we can do this using the Pythagoras theorem, where a squared equals b squared plus c, where this is a, this is b, and c. So if you find out what a is, it's going to be the same as 7.8176 plus 25, both of them squared. So that a is going to equal 26.193. We know that OB is the same as the radius, so this is 7.817. So if we find out what this AB is over here, we know that it will be 2 times pi times r. And if we do that, we'll do 2 times pi times by 7.817, where it's going to equal 49.1196. Now that we found out what this is here, we can find out what this angle over here is. This is because 49.1196 is going to equal 2 times by pi times by a over here, which is 26.193. And we times this by x squared times x 360. X 360 is the angle, so that we're finding the area of this over here. Now that if we do this and we make x the subject, we will get x is going to equal to 107. Question 20. LMNP is a quadrilateral. Work out the size angle of LMP and give your answer correct to 3 significant figures. MLP is this angle over here, so this is what we're trying to find out. We are going to cut this into 2 so that we can get 2 triangles and we can work this out easier. First step is to find out this distance over here, which is LN. And we can do this using the cosine rule. This is because we have 2 lengths and 1 angle which is in between both of them. Therefore, we can use the cosine. If we do that, we'll get 15.6 squared plus 4.3 squared minus 2 times 15.6 times 4.3, and this is times by cos 72, and this is going to equal ln but squared. Now if you do this and remember to square root it at the end, we are going to get ln equals 14.8. Now that we have this, we can use the sine rule, and this is to find out this over here, which is mln, so that we can find out part of what we are the angle we are trying to find. With the sine rule, it's basically equal to the length is equal to whatever sine of the angle is. So if we do this, we are going to get sine 58, which is here, is going to be divided by ln, which is the length, which is 14.8, and this is over sine mln over 13.7. Now if we make mln, it's the same as just doing sine 58 over 14.8, and this is times by 13.7, and this equals sine mln. However, we want to just get mln, so it will be sine inverse. All of this is going to equal mln. So mln is going to equal 51.49. Now we have to do the exact same, however, we are going to find out what L and P is so that we can add them together and get the whole MLP angle. If we do the same, we are going to do sine NLP over 4.3 because that's what's opposite it, so 4.3, and that equals sine 72, this angle over here, and the opposite is 14.8. We do the exact same procedure as the last time, and we are going to get NLP is the same as 15.99. All we have to do now is just add both of them together. So we do 51.49, add this by 15.99, we are going to get 67.5, which is the angle MLP. Question 21. Solve the inequality 6x squared plus 37x is less than or equal to 35 and show clear algebraic working. First thing we are going to do is we're going to treat this as if it is a normal quadratic equation and move this to the other side, so minus 35. And just for the sense of making simplicity, we are going to equal this to 0. Now we do this in a normal way where we factorize it, so we get 6x minus 5, this is x plus 7, and this equals to 0, so that we know that x is the same equal to 5 over 6, and x is also equal to minus 7. Now that we got that, we are going to get back the inequalities that we just left. So because it's less than or equal to, it's going to be less than or equal to minus 7, and this is x more than or equal to 5 over 6. There is also a function on your calculator, if you have a specific calculator, where you can do this in your calculator and find out the inequality by putting in your quadratic inequality. You can search this up on YouTube. There's lots of tutorials on how to do it. But just even if you're not sure exactly which way that you're going to need to put your inequality signs, just doing this and just treating it as a normal quadratic is going to get you 2 marks out of the 3. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know. Remember to subscribe and like because we will be doing predicted papers for paper 3 maths, as well as other exam boards and other subjects such as math and chem and bio.